Welcome back. Attorney Ben Winikoff is here answering your employment-related questions. All right, this text says, I'm a CDL driver and my job doesn't offer OT, even if I work over 40 hours.
So unfortunately, truck drivers are one of the exemptions to the Overtime Act. The only caveat to that is the size of your vehicle. Generally, if the size of your vehicle, I believe, is under 10,000 pounds, you can still be entitled to overtime, but anything excess to that are not entitled to overtime.
And that's probably in their contract somewhere.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, they lobbied Congress pretty heavily to make sure that they were not entitled to overtime, unfortunately.
Okay, this person says, my son just started a job. He's done over 50 hours of training and he's not getting paid for that. Is that illegal?
If that training is for the benefit of the employer, then I believe that they would be entitled to compensation for that.
So should they call like the North Carolina Labor and Wage Board kind of thing?
Yep, okay. So you can file either a complaint with the North Carolina Department of Labor or the U.S. Department of Labor.
Okay. This person says, is the employer required to lay you off in writing? Can they just verbally tell you that?
They can verbally tell you. There's no requirement that your termination be in writing.
And they don't have to give you any advance warning? They
do not.
So if I want my vacation time and all that other kind of stuff, I better do that before I leave the door?
Well, if they have a forfeiture provision, yes. But if they don't, then again, you'd be entitled to your vacation time even if they lay you off.
Okay. All right. This person says, if I use my phone for business and personal, what should I expect for privacy?
So your employer is going to retain a right to their company information that goes onto a personal device. So I think you are exposing yourself a little bit, at least to the portions of your device that are also being used for your work communication.
So are you talking about like emails, like you have work email on your phone?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. So if you've got your work email on your phone, they probably have a right to expect their work emails, the work emails that are on your phone. That right probably would not extend to your private emails or your private text communications. But when you start using your personal devices for work, you are entitling your employer to some access to those devices.
All right. Can your employer make you take your accrued PTO?
Can they force you to take your PTO?
Yeah.
I guess I would be curious about what kind of absence it is or what kind of PTO it is.
I'm guessing it's vacation time. Can they make you take your vacation time?
Generally they can. So if you are going to be out of the office for any reason, your employer can have a policy in writing stating that that you use your vacation time rather than you designating it as some kind of unpaid leave status. But again, it should be a policy that's in writing.
I see. Okay. And really quick, are human resources confidential?
Depends on the question, right? So the Americans with Disabilities Act requires that any medical information that you submit to human resources has to be maintained in confidence. The other laws don't require that your complaints be maintained in confidence, but they do require the employer to prevent you from being retaliated against. And I would say the best practice would be for those communications to remain confidential.
The best practice would be, but it's not by law.
That's right.
Okay.
Right. So yes, by law for medical information, for other types of complaints, the best practice would be for it to remain confidential.
All right, this has been good. Thank you for answering all these questions so quick. Hey, you know what? This is part of how For All Service Day is going to go, and it's Friday, March the 4th. Phone lines will be open from 11 until 7 with lawyers standing by to give you the legal information that you need. You can find today's Q&A and more information on For All Service Day in the Two Wants to Know section.